بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to our second session on predestination and free will. In the first session, we studied different occurrences of qada or its derivatives in the Quran. Now, inshallah, we want to study qadar and its derivatives in the Quranic occurrences. I will refer again to several verses of the Quran, and it would be helpful if you also refer to those verses when I am reading and translating and explaining, so that you can inshallah better understand. And I'm sure you have different ways to connect online to the Quran or on your computer, but I share also one website which is very helpful and gives you easily access. Is the chat active? Okay. So this website has translations of the Quran, has a good index, also connection to tafsirs of the Quran. Of course, most of it is good for people who know Farsi or Arabic, but translations are in English as well. So the term qadar and qadr both mean size, measure, and sometimes it can be used for value. وَمَا قَدَرُ اللَّهَ حَقَّ قَدْرِهِ. It means they don't know the value of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here it's not good to say size or measure, but indeed it comes from the same root. It means they don't know how much they should respect Him. So literally it means measure and size. But now let's see how it is used in the Quran to refer to Allah's measuring and planning things. In Surah Fussilat, which is famous to you, verses 11 and 12, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ثم استوى إلى السماء وهي الدخان فقال لها وللأرض ائتيا طوعا أو كرها قالتا أتينا طائعين. Allah refers to the creation of the sky and the earth and says that the sky was smoke. Maybe it means gas or a smoke, which is a kind of gas. and said to the sky and the earth, come whether you are happy or not, whether you like it or not. But they said, we come while we are happy, willingly, which means that they are submissive to God. Everything is submissive to God. It's just human beings and jinns who have free will in their voluntary actions. They may submit or they may not submit. Otherwise, everything, even our body, is submissive to God. Then Allah says, فَقَضَاهُنَّ سَبْعَ سَمَاوَاتٍ فِي يَوْمَيْنِ وَأَوْحَى فِي كُلِّ سَمَاءٍ أَمْرَهَا وَزَيَّنَّا السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِيهَ وَحِفْظًا ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ. Verse 12 says that Allah then made a final decree, qadha, that there would be 7 skies, but it took 2 days. Maybe it means 2 phases, 2 stages. And then He communicated to every sky their affairs, and He decorated the sky, which is the lowest one out of these 7 skies. The lowest one is the nearest to the earth, the one which we see, which has stars, planets. This is lowest. As-sama ad-dunya. Dunya sometimes means lowest, sometimes means nearest. Here it can be lowest, it can be nearest. Allah has decorated this with the masabi, with lanterns, these stars, wahiftan, and this is also in order to protect, maybe referring to protect from jinns who are harmful, etc. ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ. This is taqdeer, I will explain what it means, of Allah who is Aziz and Alim, who is dignified. No one can stop Him from implementing His plans, and He is very knowledgeable. In these 2 verses, Allah refers to the creation of the skies and the earth, and He uses both qadha and qadar. فَقَضَاهُنَّ سَبْعَ سَمَاوَاتٍ refers to His final decision for creation of the skies, and that is something that is definitely happening, and of course it happened already, but whenever there is qadha, it must happen. But also there is reference to taqdeer, to His measuring. So we realize that in Allah's work, in Allah's acts, in Allah's lordship, there are 2 aspects, 2 dimensions, 2, you can say, notions which we can refer to. One is His final, decisive will, which we can say it's qadha. One is that for everything there is a plan, there is a measure, there is a track. Inshallah, I will explain later that how there are tracks, and whatever track you take, it will take you certainly to a certain result. The results are final for this track, but sometimes you have other tracks too. Inshallah, we will explain. This is a very important point. So, taqdeer is different from qadha. They are very closely connected, but qadha is final will of God. Taqdeer is planning, programming, fixing measures for everything. Sometimes there can be alternative planning or programs or measures in front of you. You have, for example, a journey of 100 kilometers. You can go towards the north, you can go towards the south, maybe other directions. Whatever route you take, you will reach certain destination. You cannot go to the north and reach the destination in the south. Every route takes to its own destination. Some of the verses of the Quran refer to a specific taqdeer. For example, in Surah Zukhruf, verse 11, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم والذي نزل من السماء ماء بقدر فأنشرنا به بلدة ميتا كذلك تخرجون. Allah is the one who sends down or sent down, because nazzala is past tense, but it can also be an ongoing, act. Sent down from sky water, which is referring to rain, biqadar. So when rain comes, maybe we don't know how much it's going to rain. Some people, maybe they can predict. But for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even the drops of rain are known and decided. Even drops, not just how long it's going to rain. Is it going to be, slow or fast? Is it going to shower? No, even up to drops are decided. Actually, before the measure is fixed, nothing happens. This is an amazing point, inshallah I will explain later. فَأَنْشَرْنَا بِهِ بَلْدَةً مَيْتًا. Then we spread and give life with this to a dead land, reviving the soil with the rain and then having greeneries. كَذَلِكَ تُخْرَجُونَ. When you see a land which had no sign of life, then it has become full of flowers and fruits, etc., leaves. This should remind you of your own revival. How every year the earth is revived when a spring comes or close to spring. So we are also going to be resurrected. In Surah Shura, verse 14. Surah Shura is chapter 27 in the verse 14. Surah Shura, verse 27. I think it's verse 27, yes. Surah Shura, verse 27, Allah says, وَلَوْ بَسَطَ اللَّهُ الرِّزْقَ لِعِبَادِهِ لَبَغَوْا فِي الْأَرْضِ. لَوْ بَسَطَ اللَّهُ الرِّزْقَ لِعِبَادِهِ لَبَغَوْا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Let me check because it's being recorded so that we give the exact. Surah Shura is chapter 42. And the ayah is 27. Chapter 42, ayah 27. وَلَوْ بَسَطَ اللَّهُ الرِّزْقَ لِعِبَادِهِ لَبَغَوْا فِي الْأَرْضِ. If Allah was making rizq, sustenance, too much, then people would become inordinate, would do injustice, would do mischief. Because unfortunately, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَيَطْغَى أَنْ رَآهُ اسْتَغْنَى. There is such tendency in human beings, unless they control themselves, that when they have no shortage, when they feel they are rich and have no need, unfortunately, instead of becoming humble and grateful, they become inordinate, they become arrogant, they become more greedy, unfortunately, unless they change themselves. لو بسط الله الرزق لعباده لبغوا في الأرض. It's not that if they had more, they would have become satisfied and content. No, most of people, if they have more, they become more greedy. ولكن ينزل بقدر ما يشاء. But he sends down what he wants with a measure. There is a limit. He doesn't give you unlimited or too much of risk. Yes, maybe sometimes if he wants to test some people, he gives them too much, especially sometimes for istidraj, for the people that they are doing bad and insisting on that, and they are not paying attention to anything. Sometimes they receive even more. But generally speaking, Allah doesn't give too much, because he wants to help us to remain humble and grateful. So he sends rizq, like rain that we said comes with measure. Rizq also comes with measure. No one can increase it or decrease it. He decides how much rizq should be coming to you, to me, to others. إِنَّهُ بِعِبَادِهِ خَبِيرٌ بَصِيرٌ. He has very detailed information about his servants, and he is watching them. Or another case where taqdeer is used for a specific things like the first was rain, the second is rizq, the third is about sun, movement of the sun. In Surah Yasin, Allah says, Yasin 38, وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍ لَهَا ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ. The sun also has movement. It's amazing that even despite the general opinion that sun is fixed at that time, Quran says sun is also moving, and it goes to a place which can be an orbit, it can be a condition that the sun is repeating, or it's going to reach finally. ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ. This is the planning and measuring of Allah, who is Aziz and Alim, like what we had about a sky, and we said زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وحفظا ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم. Surah Fussilat. Here also Allah says ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم. And you see the movement of the sun and the earth is so accurate, so measured that people can calculate when the moon is going to rise, when month will change, when there would be eclipse. Even for future, long, future, they can predict based on calculations. If there was no order, there was no punctuality, then you couldn't, predict. These are specific cases. But then we have verses that says everything is like this. We gave you the example of the sun, we gave you the example of rizq, the example of rain, the example of sky, but everything is like this. إِنَّا كُلُّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَاهُ بِقَدَرٍ. Everything that we have created has measure. It's very important. Everything has a measure. This is Surah Qamar, verse 49. Nothing happens in this world in bulk. When it is in bulk, it means that you don't know. For example, is it 1,000 bricks or 1,100 or 900, 950? You don't know. Maybe you buy a load of bricks. A lorry, for example, truck. But there is nothing in the world like this. Even every drop of rain, every seed of the harvest, every sand is measured. Everything is with calculation. There is husban. الشمس والقمر بحسبان. Everything has hisab. السماء رفعها ووضع الميزان. There is a scale. If we had knowledge, we could know what is going to happen to the drops of rain, because Allah's way of running this world is very, very regular, with perfect calculation. Because we don't know the details, we say, I don't know it's going to rain or not. I don't know whether Allah is going to accept my dua or not. I don't know I'm going to have children or not. But if you knew everything, then you would know exactly, perfectly what Allah's decision will be for you or for others or for the whole world. The only things which are, maybe to some extent not predictable for us, although for Allah is predictable because He's outside past, present, and future, but we are not outside past, present, future, is human voluntary actions. Allah's actions are regular. But if they are response to our actions, because our actions are not fixed, we could not predict. But Allah knows in advance because He is above time limits, as He is above space limits. So, إِنَّا كُلُّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَاهُ بِقَدَرٍ. Everything that we have created is with measure. Or in this ayah, beautiful ayah, Surah Al-Hajj, verse 21, Allah says, وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا عِندَنَا خَزَائِنُهُ وَمَا نُنَزِّلُهُ إِلَّا بِقَدَرٍ مَعْلُومٍ. There is nothing unless its treasures are with us. Anything good comes from Allah, number one. Anything which doesn't come from Allah doesn't exist. So we don't have anything bad. Anything good comes from Him. Okay? Then you say bad things don't come from Him. I said bad things don't exist. So everything good comes from Him. Bad things are just relative. You think they are bad. Anything good comes from Him. And He has unlimited treasures. He sends down from His unlimited treasures fixed amounts of those things. For example, إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. Ilm is with Allah. And in the Quran means near Allah. Is a very important concept in discussion about nearness. I have discussed this. What is end? We don't have anything ma'allah. Allah is with everything in general, and Allah is with good people in a specific sense. He's with everyone, everything. هُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ. He is with you wherever you are, but in a special sense, He is with good people. إِنَّ مَعِيَ رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينَ. My Lord is with me. This my Lord is with me is different from He is with everyone. Okay? This ma'iyya is for support. But you don't find anything or anyone being introduced as He is ma'allah. No one is ma'allah. Nothing is ma'allah. Allah is ma'akum. Allah is ma'a kulli shay. But nothing is ma'allah. Indeed, the Quran says, لا تدعوا مع الله أحدا. Don't call anyone ma'allah. It is shirk. Even for Rasulullah, we don't say he is ma'allah. For Isa, we don't say he is ma'allah. We say they are عند Allah. Ya wajihan عند Allah. Or martyrs. لا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أمواتا بل أحياء عند ربهم. Not أحياء مع ربهم. Unfortunately, in English translations, I have seen many times, they don't make distinction. So they say they are with God. But and maybe in English it's okay, but in Arabic, you cannot say these are ma'allah. If you want to, be very accurate. So it's better that you say they are close to God, not with God. So, in that realm of endiyat, martyrs are there, prophets are there, angels are there, muqarrabun are there, alladhina inda rabbik. Rizq is there, everything good is there. But then, if they are going to be distributed, He would send it in a very known and well decided measure. وَمَا نُنَزِّلُهُ إِلَّا بِقَدَرٍ مَعْلُومٍ. Actually, this is a very important requirement of hikmah, wisdom. Who is a wise person? Those who do similar things everywhere and every time, they are not wise. Those who speak everywhere in the same way, they are not wise. Hakim is the one who knows where to speak, where not to speak. And even when he has to speak, what to say, how much to say, how to say. Should I say it with details or just general? Should I emphasize or not? What time I should speak, in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon, weekday, weekend. Hakim measures everything. Those who are not Hakim, just because they know something, they say what they like. Just they make sure that it is correct. But even things which are correct, you cannot say it the same way everywhere. Sometimes you have to be silent, sometimes you have to share. And when you share, how much to share, how to share, what to say. There are so many things. Therefore, for Hakim, it's not easy to make decision unless there is experience, unless there is insight, unless there is limited knowledge like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or there is ilmul ghayb like the Prophet and Imams. But for ordinary people who have been gifted with wisdom only, not with ilmul ghayb, it takes them time to make decision, and sometimes they cannot make decision, and they do lots of thinking and consideration and consultation. People who have always ready-made answers, if they know ilmul ghayb, okay. If they don't have access to ilmul ghayb, means they are shallow in their understanding. So Allah is the wise. Everything that He does has taqdeer, has measure. And then in the year, we have a special night, which is Laylatul Qadr. Throughout the year, everything happens with measure. But for the next 12 months, also we have one taqdeer. Like, for example, in the same way that Quran has two types of revelation. The Quran descends once in a gradual process. It took 23 years to be revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is what we call an-nuzul tadriji, gradual descent, gradual revelation. But Quran is also an-nuzul daf'i, at once. In Laylatul Qadr, the Quran was revealed to the Prophet as a whole, at once. Okay? And then over 23 years. So, how Quran has two types of revelation, things are also decided for us in this world, sometimes in a detailed and expanded way, sometimes in a compressed and as a whole. So in Laylatul Qadr, we have planning for the next 12 months, whatever is going to happen to us. If someone is going to be having rizq or not, trips, going to Hajj or not, having child or not, marrying or not, everything is decided in Laylatul Qadr for the next 12 months. Of course, وَلِلَّهِ فِيهَا الْمَشِيَّةِ. It's not that it cannot change, but unless overriding factors come, this is going to happen. Like for example, when budget law is passed by the government or by the parliament in different systems, they have different ways to finalize budget law. This is going to affect the economy of the country and the nation for the next financial year. But there is possibility of amendments. Sometimes they see they have more income, so they can, have more ambitious plans, projects. Sometimes something unexpected happens. They have to amend to accommodate that. But if nothing extraordinary happens, they go by the budget law for the whole year. So in Laylatul Qadr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides the measures for everything which is going to happen in the next 12 months. But then they will be unfolding gradually. And again, everything is with measuring. So one, a small, or you can say compressed, and one expanded version. Quran itself, as I said, is like this. كتاب أحكمت آياته ثم فصلت. So, Laylatul Qadr is the night of measure, in the sense that all measures that are going to be made in the next 12 months, they are going to be made together in this night. This is such an amazing opportunity for us. And this is great blessing of Allah, that all the measures for us are going to be made in a night which is very blessed. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةٍ مُبَارَكَةٍ. Laylatul Qadr is Laylatin Mubarakah in Surah Dukhan. Laylatul Qadr is Salamun hiya hatta matla'il fajr. So in the most blessed and peaceful night, everything is decided and measured. We are very fortunate. And if we are preparing ourselves and put ourselves in tune with what is happening in Laylatul Qadr, then we can benefit the most. So, let us make a few points as conclusion for our discussion tonight. Number one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala runs this world with perfect planning and measuring, and He has final decisions before anything happens. So nothing happens without His knowledge. Nothing happens with His knowledge but without decision. Because sometimes, for example, I see something that is happening but I have no say. In front of me, for example, they are doing something but I cannot stop them. Allah knows what is going to happen, and He has final decision. Without His yes, nothing happens. If He vetoes, or if He doesn't make decision, nothing happens. He has to say be, so that it can happen. Of course, as I said, it doesn't mean that He is pleased with things, because sometimes He allows things which are against His will to happen, because we have legislative will and generative will, as we explained last week. If you have not been there last week, please listen to last week. So He allows, for example, us to obey Him or to disobey Him, but He says We should obey because good for us. But if we disobey, still it means that he has given green light. Otherwise, who could do anything without his green light? So everything happens with his knowledge, everything happens with his will and approval, in the sense that he has to let it happen, he has to give green light. But everything also happens with planning and measuring. He doesn't do things in bulk, he doesn't do things indiscriminately. No, everything comes with perfect planning. And if we want to be true believers, if we want to be godly, we should also do things with planning, with punctuality. We should be orderly. This is the way to be a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we learn that to be a mu'min means to be organized, to be punctual, to consider measures, then we will make great progress. Number 2 is that everything in this world is preceded by his qada and qadar. So everything is preceded by his final will and by his measures. Everything. Even our voluntary actions. So it's not that either we have to accept free will or we have to accept qada and qadar. Qadar has no conflict with our free will, because qadar means everything that is going to happen comes with measure, but it's up to you. You want to go to this path, to that path. If you work this much, you get this much. If you study this much, you learn this much. If you pray this much, or you do sincere action this much, everything is leading to fixed result. We don't know because of our ignorance, but it is decided, it is known. In the same way that a teacher with experience can know which student is going to have good result, which student is going to have just passing mark, who is going to fail. It's not that because of this they are forced. No. Because they know what routes are they taking in their studies and what background they have, what potentials and talents they have. It's clear. Based on what you do, you can harvest. So, taqdeer comes first, qada comes second. Taqdeer means planning, having routes, programs with clear ends, but then whatever you take at the end will be fixed. Sometimes taqdeer is only with one option, or you don't call it option, like it's one way, because option should be more than one. There's only one way. Well, you can maybe you want to say one option, one choice, but it means there is no choice actually. It's going to happen. For example, we are all going to die. You cannot change this. كل نفس ذائقة الموت. We are going to be resurrected. You cannot change this. End of this world would be the governance of the righteous people. وَلَقَدْ كَتَبْنَا فِي الزَّبُورِ مِنْ بَعْدِ الذِّكْرِ أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. We cannot change this. Also, we cannot change, for example, the fact that there is sun, there is moon. These are fixed. But sometimes there are options. In taqdeer, it's not that always it's fixed. There are options. And this is when, or at least the main part of it, is when we have free will, like human beings and jinns who have free will, they have options. Even angels don't have options. ما منا إلا له مقام معلوم. They have fixed positions. عباد مكرمون لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم. They are honored servants of Allah, they don't disobey Him. But human beings and jinns, they can obey, they can disobey. Even when they obey, again, there can be different degrees of certainty, sincerity, ma'rifah, love. They all will have impact. So you can say that almost whole world, whole universe, and what I mean by world or universe, ma siwa Allah, anything other than Allah, means all the immaterial things, material things, okay? The whole universe is divided into two parts. One part is with fixed planning, with one program, one route. The other part comes with options, with possibilities. And that is about human beings and jinns when they have free will. Our decisions cannot change everything. There are things that whether we like it or not are there. We cannot change, for example, the number of angels or what they do. Yeah. But we can change our destiny. We can affect destiny of other people to some extent, although it depends in the end on their own decision. We can even cause disturbance or improvement to non-human beings in this physical world. Allah wants us to make everything better. هو الذي أنشأكم في الأرض واستعمركم فيها. Allah is the one who created you on the earth and has asked you to improve it. But it can happen that also we corrupt everything. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس. We have made lots of corruption in the air, in water, soils, forests. Lots of corruption human beings have made. So, part of the world is fixed, part of the universe, part of it is not fixed because human beings can, with their free will, have impact. This part which is not fixed, again, is divided into our lives and destiny and into things which are somehow under our influence. Because Allah has made this world in the way that we can manage. سَخَّرَ لَكُم مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. When you can manage, then you can manage well, or you can manage in a negative way. We have this beautiful ayah that how if we behave well, especially as a group, not just as individuals. If inhabitants of a city, of a town, all of them, or at least great majority of them, have faith and do righteous deeds, it will have impact on the rain. It will have impact on the sunshine. It will have an impact on fertility of the soil, on not having catastrophes. Quran says in Surah Al-A'raf, verse 96, وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَهْلَ الْقُرَىٰ آمَنُوا وَاتَّقَوْا لَفَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَرَكَاتٍ مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَلَكِنْ كَذَّبُوا فَأَخَذْنَاهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. If people of towns had faith, although qaryat can sometimes translate village, but it's not always village. You can say towns. If people of towns had faith and piety, we would have opened up for them blessings from the sky and the earth. But as I said, it means that either all the inhabitants or as a whole, as a community. It has big impact if as a whole they are muttaqi, not just there are good people around. So our decisions have a role in our lives and in change of the situation in part of the universe, not all the universe. This shows how much we can be impactful. Inshallah, in the next session we will continue this discussion. We have important things to talk, especially about the story of Prophet Musa that I promised you. Inshallah, we'll talk about it and how Allah's plan materialized. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Do you have questions? Maybe if you can raise your hand. And my request is, please listen to the lecture once again, because listening once is not enough. There are many details that first time you just hear, but when you go second time and you can connect them with each other, then you would have, inshallah, much clearer understanding. The previous lecture is recorded. Inshallah, the admin, I think they are going to share with you. Sister Fatima, Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I'm a little bit confused. I don't think I understood it correctly.
Yes. A little bit confusion is good.
So you had said that.
Because then you listen carefully.
A lot. You said that everything is a green light. Everything happens because God gives a green light, even the bad.
Yeah.
So then what about our sinning? What about the wrong? Like, whose responsibility is that? If God gives the green light, so then why is it my responsibility?
Yeah. In the last session, we spoke about this, about two types of will: generative will and legislative will. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to do good things. Okay? But He doesn't force this. He says, إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي. He says you should do justice, kindness, etc., and should not do injustice. But I leave it to you. إما شاكرا وإما كفورا إنا هديناه السبيل إما شاكرا وإما كفورا. If you go according to my instructions, you will prosper in dunya and akhirah. If you go against my instructions, I'm not going to stop you, but you will see the consequences and you have to be accountable. So it's not that if we disobey, he cannot stop us. No, he can stop us, but he doesn't stop. He says, I want to see how you behave. Okay? Like, for example, if you have a small child, you give him maybe money, say, go and buy, for example, something useful, a book, or I don't know, some fruit, some milk, whatever. Don't buy bad things. And I'm going to come with you and watch you, what you buy, but I don't stop you. Because you want to see whether your child behaves well or not. Does he learn from his mistakes or not? So you can stop him whenever he wants to buy something bad. But you see that in the long term, he needs to be trained to use his free will properly. If anytime he wants to do something bad, you stop him, he cannot use his free will. So Allah does not stop us when we want to disobey him. He lets people to use their free will. This is the main principle. Of course, sometimes he may stop us, especially many times Allah stops us from doing bad things for the sake of general good. For example, لولا دفع الله الناس بعضهم ببعض لهدمت صوامع وبيع وصلوات ومساجد. Sometimes people want to destroy mosques and churches and synagogues and monasteries. Allah would stop them by help of other people. So even here he uses people who are free to stop people who are free. Okay? Or for example, sometimes we want to do something bad, but Allah out of his love, he stops us. But these are secondary consideration. The main consideration is that people are left free till they go and maybe they hit with their head the wall, or maybe they find their way. Because through free will we gain much more. Allah could have created us like angels, but then angels cannot reach where human beings can reach.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Saeed. Thank you very much. I will listen to the lecture again. Can I just humbly add to what you were saying about this concept of, and what the sister was saying about sinning?
Yeah.
We've always got the option, from my understanding, that there is tawbah, that we can go back to Allah and say astaghfirullah if we've made mistakes, and we start again. And this is one of the promises in the Quran. I think that option is always open. Inshallah. The other question actually that came to my mind, it made perfect sense what you were saying about as we get older and wiser, we sit, we consult, we're organized, we are responsible for example, where I'm living at the moment, I'm not living in a community where there's any Shia at all actually in my city. And I was interested in your point about living in a town where there's faith and piety and righteousness, because I've seen that actually among people who are not Shia or Muslim, among the Christian people. However, when you were discussing this beautiful thought of a place in this world in 2023, considering the situation that we're in, I was just interested in your opinion, because I've traveled a lot and I'm thinking of traveling again. Bismillah. I was thinking, do you have any thoughts on places in the world where because I mean, obviously from the shrines and the holy places, they're very sacred and beautiful places that I have, inshallah, will be visiting soon. But again, one has to go back to one's life, and to get to the point, I'm asking you, do you think there's any particular places, because, you know, we speak about hijrah and all of that, that's, you know, in the past, you know, I mean, moving to different places and so on. Do you have any thoughts on where you would consider some of the best examples of cities where there are righteous people, or places in this world?
Yeah.
Sorry, it was a long way to get to my point, but thank you for your patience with that.
That's fine, thank you. We have, alhamdulillah, cities with many righteous people, but unfortunately, so far, we don't have any city, any town, in which either all people or great majority are righteous. Especially what Quran wants is to be righteous in our relations, not just in our persons. Because greater beauty is in having our relations according to the will of Allah. To be a good person is great, but it's not as important as having a godly family, or even better, a godly community. So I have discussed this in lectures about social wilaya and community building, and I very much believe that this is a prerequisite for coming of Imam Mahdi Ajalallah Farajahu Sharif, that there must be a community, either in one place or I don't know, a network, but there must be a sizable, I'm not talking about millions, maybe a few thousands, who form an ideal community. That then Imam Mahdi can say to the world, look, these are my people that have already established among themselves justice, fairness, kindness. And we want to offer this to all of you. But if Imam Mahdi has lots of good individuals with him, but these individuals don't trust each other, don't show fairness to each other, cannot live together, it's not going to work.
Exactly.
This is why it's one of our top, if not the top, at least one of the top priorities to form at least a small pockets of such community. And then inshallah maybe they can grow, they can merge, so that we can have at least one community, sizable community, that we can say between husband and wife, between parents and children, between neighbors, between customers and then shopkeepers, police, people, everyone is according to the will of God.
And sorry, may I want to ask as well, in terms of community, because now we have this online world, which in some ways is not real, because I'm 61, mashallah. So I remember a life before internet. So now we're in a world where we are able to speak like this on computers. When you mention community, are you referring to us physically being together, or in an online community? If that makes sense.
Yeah. It can be, as I said, in one locality, or it can be a network.
Right.
So initially I was thinking that maybe in one part of the world, this community can be established, and then other people can be inspired, and it can grow. But then it was very interesting. I was in Calgary, and we had a discussion with some brothers, because I always take opportunity to talk about social wilaya, and one of them said, when you put water in microscope and see the crystals formation when it's going to become ice, it's not that it starts from one end to the other end. You have a little crystal here, a little crystal here, a little here. Then little by little they grow, and then they all are connected, and all of it becomes solid.
Beautiful.
So then it came to my mind that maybe this is the good model, that few like-minded people, committed people, maybe in this city, few in that city, few in that city. Then inshallah, if they can be connected with a thread, maybe this would be a global community.
Yes.
That brings the best people from different parts of the world together.
Yes.
Maybe this is the model.
Jazakallah. Thank you so much, Doctor.
May Allah bless you, inshallah. I think
Ameen.
the next person is Sister Laya.
Thank you so much, Sheikh Shomali,
You're
for your
welcome.
life. Thank you.
May Allah bless
I
you.
came across the narration from Imam Ali alayhi salam where he moved away from a wall that was about to collapse, and he said, I flee from qada of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the qadr of Allah.
Yes.
What's the meaning of this statement?
Yes, inshallah we will talk about it, but basically ulama say that here that qada and qadar can be used interchangeably. And here it means that if I stay under this wall, the wall is going to collapse and I'm going to be hit. If I go to another place not close to the wall, if the wall collapses, I am safe. Okay? So it means that there are two options available for me.
Okay.
One is to stay here and be hit and die. One is go to somewhere there. So whatever I choose, I would see the result. But I have choice. If I stay there and die, I cannot say Allah had fixed this and I had no other solution.
Right, right.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Allah bless you, inshallah. We have two, I don't know who was first, Sister Fatima, Sister Emilio. So one of you, maybe Sister Fatima, and then Sister...
Salam alaikum, Sheikh. I
Alaikum
think Brother
salam.
Emilio was first, but
brother, sorry. Yes.
I'll take the opportunity. I'm muted. Thank you so much for your lecture.
You're welcome.
There's a question that is emerging in my head because there is a growing number of humanists who are starting to believe that because of lack of interference from, say, God in terms of major events or when things happen, big disasters happen, and there's lack of thereof intervention from God, that there is this dissonance almost to say that there is no God because everything that is happening is by the hands of human beings. Therefore, the growing numbers of humanists believing in that. But I also want to just understand if we have free will. Allah has gifted us free will, which is amazing, and we can do good things with it. But if we, through our free will, can affect or the impact of our actions can impact the life of other people. You mentioned even beyond this realm, say, we can send good things for the people in the hereafter and also affect those who are living. Say, if we kill someone unjustly, that life is going to be affected by our actions. But the lack of Allah's intervention at the time when it's needed, almost the green light to commit murder or to do whatever it is therefore impacting the life of those who have been martyred. And I'm struggling to reconcile when we talk about adalat, and I know there will be accountability. But as far as this life is concerned and what we see, it's very difficult for the rational mind to comprehend for those who do not have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way perhaps Muslims believe. So how can we explain? Because I had this meeting with a humanist and I was a little bit stuck for words when it comes to things like that. So if you don't mind summarizing it for me, it will be really
Sure.
useful. Thank you.
I don't know if you have come across the series we had in Jose in London on divine justice. This is based on very precious book by Ayatollah Mutahari, Divine Justice, and we have studied it from cover to cover in 20 or 22 lectures. And there are people who tell me that they listen again and again. So it's an amazing book. One of the best books I have read in my life is that book. So if you
Sorry,
want,
could you repeat the name again?
Divine Justice.
Divine Justice. Okay, I got it.
But if you listen to the lectures, because it needs sometimes, explanation. So you put Divine Justice Shomali, you can find it.
Okay, thank you, Sister.
You're welcome. So basically, we have to see what is the purpose of this world so that we can then judge whether it was wise to have it or not. Because those who question, they have no proof against existence of God. No one has any proof against the existence of God. The maximum is that they raise doubts about existence of God. And one of the most maybe important way that they argue is based on the problem of evil. They say that if God has knowledge and power and is benevolent, why he let bad things happen? Okay? They cannot prove that God doesn't exist. They cannot disprove his wisdom. They raise question that if he has all the knowledge, all the power, and he is benevolent, why he lets bad things happen? Okay, this is the question. The answer is that first of all, we have no enough knowledge. He has all the knowledge. We don't have even considerable knowledge. We have very limited knowledge. Who am I to say that I have understood everything behind every creation and I can say I didn't find anything good? I don't find this system acceptable. Who can claim that I know everything, even about my own body? Okay? Who can say I cannot accept there is greater good? The maximum is that they can ask question. No one can refute. Okay? And when we have proved existence of God as perfect being and his wisdom and knowledge, then we have to trust. When you accept someone as a qualified doctor, you don't say, your prescription doesn't make sense to me because I haven't studied pharmacy, I haven't studied medicine. So no one has any proof against God or against wisdom of God. We have to acknowledge that our understanding is very limited. But we can try to get some, understanding, a little bit of appreciation of what God in his massive planning has done. We say we are human beings with free will. If you take free will from human beings, they are not human beings. Yeah, like the lion that Mawlavi Rumi, says that someone wanted to make a tattoo of a lion. When the person started, making with the needle the tail, it was very painful. He said, which part of lion is this? He said, tail. He said, it doesn't need tail. Then he said, okay. Then he started again putting the needle on the skin. It was again painful. He said, what part is it? He said, a stomach. He said, doesn't need a stomach. Then he said, it's leg. He said, doesn't need leg. Then he said, it's the head. He said, doesn't need. Then he said, شیر بیال و دم و اشکم خدا هم نافرید. He said, how do you expect me to make tattoo of lion without tail, stomach, leg, and head? Even God has not created such a lion. So, human beings without free will are not human beings. Okay? And our value compared to even angels is that we have choice. So, if we want to have free will, we need to accept consequences. If you want to put people in prison and then they by force don't do anything wrong, then there is a consequence. People in prison never, can develop their potential. They can never have, enjoyable life. Do you want to put human beings in a kind of metaphysical prison that they cannot do anything wrong? Or you want to let them be free? If you want to be free, then you have to accept that there is a price for freedom. You inform them, you educate them, you send all the prophets, you give the reward, you give the warning, but still they may go to wrong direction. In the long term, it's better to leave human beings free than stopping them whenever they want to do something wrong. Plus, in order to test them how they use their free will, you should have a world in which they need to make decisions that can be sometimes difficult. For example, what do they do if they are poor? What do they do if there is limited amount of resources? What do they do if they become ill? What do they do if they have lots of power? So, this world is not perfect. This world is not like heaven. This world is with limitations, with shortcomings, with competition, with conflicts, with wars. But it's perfect for our purpose. I repeat, this world is not perfect in itself, but for the sake of training and examining is perfect. If you want to train commandos, you don't take them to 5-star hotels.
Correct.
You take them to forests. You sometimes don't give them enough food, enough water. You sometimes, scare them because you have greater plan. So Allah has great plan for humanity, and for that free will is needed. Anything that eradicates free will, whether it's, by expecting him, to intervene all the time, expect him to do all the time miracles, is unwise. Yes, he is there to help and support, but he is not there to intervene all the time. Yeah, for example, imagine if you are head teacher of a school and your child studies there. And every time there is an exam, your child says, you should help me. Every time he doesn't go to a school and teacher says, why don't you help me? You say, no, this is a system. You are not going to benefit, and I cannot be the head teacher of this school if you want to take advantage all the time. But for you and anyone else, if you show your commitment, if you show that you are hardworking, I help you. And anyone else is like that. Anyone can rely on my help, but in a systematic way, not just by ad hoc interventions. Yes, so this is a little bit, inshallah, explanation. Brother,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome, may Allah bless you. Brother Emilio, this is the last question.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah.
So if everything is good because it comes from Allah, and bad is objective,
Subjective.
subjective. When these calamities happen and loss and these bad things, in my head I can think, okay, this is subjective, right? But then when it actually happens, how can I make it so that I don't fall apart? How can I understand that more and see it more and not feel so, not in the wrong sense that I don't have feelings about the things, but how can I understand it more and accept it more?
Yes. We should always have two things together. You should have focused view of everything that you have to make decision, but also you should have the large picture in mind. If you only have the large picture, you don't know what to do. If you have only a small picture, also you cannot make proper decision. Okay? For example, you are driving from one city to another city. Maybe it's 500 kilometers. You should know that you want to go from point A to point B, from, for example, south to the north. You are going to go through, I don't know, mountains, etc. So you should have the large picture in mind. But you also should be careful about every, bit of this journey. Okay? If you focus too much only on, the distance before your eyes, you cannot move. And if you focus on the whole thing, you can have accident, just a car comes in front of you and you don't see because you are thinking about 500 kilometers. So, a mu'min is to pay attention to all the detail, relevant detail, not unnecessary or irrelevant details. But anything which can bear on our decision, we should be very careful. But at the same time, don't forget the long plan. If you see the long plan, then you will be amazed at how things are going forward. When Lady Zainab Salamullah alayha says, Ma ra'aytu illa jamila, she has vision of both sides. She can see all the details. She went through all those things. But she has also a long-term vision, puts them together, and sees that these sacrifices are preparing us for a great good in future, and therefore they're worth it. But if you don't have that long term, or you don't have the information about the details, in both cases you will make wrong decisions. Another example is like a student. A student sometimes has to reduce sleeping, has not to play, etc. Focus on the studies, especially when exam time says, but he knows that, okay, this will help me to graduate from high school, then I graduate from university, then I can do this, that, etc. You need to have that long-term route in front of you and also in front of your eyes, plus all the details, because every day you have to also act properly. If we know things in the way that Allah looks at things, you would see everything is in its own place. If you are able to have the master plan in front of you with all the details, you will see everything is perfect. Brother Emilio, you have a question, or that was one before?
Yeah, thank you very much.
May Allah bless you.
I really needed to hear that right now.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. May Allah bless you. So let us, inshallah, end with dua faraj. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكن أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم اشف مرضانا، اللهم ارحم موتانا، اللهم اقض حوائجنا، اللهم يسر أمورنا، اللهم اجعل عواقب أمورنا خيرا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. May Allah inshallah be with you, and inshallah have a great week inshallah. التماس دعاء.